everyone, I'm Abigail from Quest Art School and Gallery. Today, in partnership with the Midland Public Library, I'll be showing you how to create a lovely landscape scene for your date night. Whether you're doing this with a friend, partner, or loved one, I'll walk you through the easy steps to create this cute final piece. Let's go over what's in the kit. You should have 2 canvases, one each, an acrylic paint set, an additional bottle of white paint, 2 sets of soft brushes, a palette, and 2 sponges. You will each have your own canvas and brush set. The rest is easily shareable. In addition to your kits, I would recommend grabbing yourself a small container filled with water, 1 pencil or pencil crayon, and a paper towel or rag for cleaning brushes when necessary. Given this is a pre-recorded video, please feel free to pause, rewind, and play back whichever steps you need. Take your time and have fun with the activity. You may also access the complete script, with written steps, on how to paint this scene online. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Step 1. We're going to visualize how the canvases will look combined. Work together to line up your canvases evenly, side by side, lengthwise. Then, using a pencil or pencil crayon, we're going to section the canvases into approximate thirds. With your canvases still lined up, we'll next draw the trunk of our tree. It's important to leave enough room on either side later for the heart detail, so try to make your trunk at least 1.5 inches wide on either side. Don't worry too much about the branch details just yet. Step 2. With your palette, we're going to add a small amount of the light blue, the vermilion, and white. It's important to remember that less is more when mixing colors. Start with small quantities and add a little bit if needed. Taking a healthy amount of white, I barely touched my wide square brush into both the vermilion and the blue, then mixed. You should come out with a light purple-gray color. When satisfied with the color you've mixed, we're going to completely fill the top third of the painting on both halves. Step 3. Using the ultramarine blue, I'm going to add a small amount to my palette and mix that into my existing blue, alongside a small touch of white. We'll begin filling in the second third of the painting, starting from the top. To create the gradient effect, simply begin to gradually add more white to your color the lower you get. Let the canvas sit for a few minutes in order to let the paint dry. Acrylic paint dries fairly quickly, but it's important to apply the paint in thin coats for the most efficient results. Step 4. Add some crimson to your palette. In a new spot, we're going to mix the ultramarine blue with the crimson to create a deep purple hue. Add a small amount of white if needed. With this purple color, we're going to use the sponges to lightly dab along the bottom third. Feel free to slightly go over the edges. This will give the illusion of a more natural foliage. The closer I get to the bottom of the canvas, the more red I add to give the illusion of a gradient. Wash your sponge afterwards. Step 5. With your remaining purple, we're going to add some more white, until you have a color that's only slightly darker than your sky. Again, wait for your painting to dry completely. When it is, we'll start with our horizon. On the top third, at the bottom where the sections separate, we'll paint the shape of a distant shore with your light purple color. Step 6. Now mixing some more crimson and ultramarine into your purple, we'll do a second layer on top of the light shoreline to create more depth, still with that angled brush. For some water detail, gently make horizontal lines in the water to create the illusion of waves. Step 7. This is an optional step, but I thought it was kind of cute. With a clean brush, I lightly used a pure white to add some clouds to my sky. Let your canvas completely dry at this point before proceeding. Step 8. Now that your canvases are dry, we'll add some Viridian to the palette. It's a very bright color, so we can dull it down slightly by adding a very small amount of the complementary color, crimson red. Adding white, I make a light green that I then apply to her horizon on top of the purple. Feel free to use very light, loose strokes here. Step 9. Remix some Viridian and red to get a darker green, adding less white this time. Closer to the horizon line, our little line between layers, I add another layer of foliage to create even more depth. Wait for the canvas to completely dry when you're done. Step 10. I cleared off my palette for this next step and washed my brushes in water. Using a clean surface, work together to fill in your trees. We'll take a fair amount of white and only add a small amount of black to get a light gray. Fill in the base of the tree and then add your branches. I also added 2 smaller trees at the edges. Don't worry too much about the base of the tree just yet. Leave it to dry. Step 11. Using a small detail brush with a very small amount of pure black, I added tiny horizontal stripes along the trees. Repeat this step with a pure white to get the birch bark texture. Step 12. Add some yellow and crimson to your palette. We're going to mix these together using your clean sponge and then dab onto the canvas to create leaves. I started with more yellow, then gradually added more red to the mix the farther up I moved. Feel free to add as many or as few leaves as you'd like, leaving gaps here and there. Step 13. Add some green and ultramarine to your palette. We're going to mix green like we did before, but this time we'll start with a darker green first and then add white for the closer layers. Using a medium round brush, fill in the grass at the bottom of the canvas, making sure to cover the bottom of your trees. Step 14. With a clean brush and making sure the canvas is dry, use a pure white and work together to create the 2 halves of your heart. Line up your canvases and make sure the sides are even. Let completely dry when done. Step 15. The very last step. Using the smallest brush possible, carefully write your initials on each side of your canvases using a pure black paint. When you put them together, you should have a completed piece. I also use the black to carefully cover the edges of our example. Let dry completely and you're finished. We hope you had a wonderful time working together to create this artwork. Thank you so much for supporting local arts and culture, and we hope that you enjoy a safe and lovely 2021.